headset's microphone and put it down next to my mouth where it belongs. Or some of you who've been there when I just talk incessantly may disagree. But for now, I'm going to let you hear me. My name is Paul. I am a nerd. And you are lucky enough to be here for our March 2015 Coffee Pot webinar, where we are talking about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart: contact management and marketing through PracticeMaster. And in a minute, you'll find out just how near and dear it is to my heart. But before we get there, let's do a little housekeeping and explain that this is the GoToWebinar control panel. Now, I have an old picture. I understand that they've made it look jazzier and more, I don't know, hipster. But the functionality is the same. So if yours looks a little different, I don't have the new picture with the new buttons yet, so just bear with me. But this is the GoToWebinar control panel. This is a set of buttons that slides off to the side of that control panel, and pressing this button that looks like an arrow pointing to the right will cause this big thing to slide off your screen, and therefore you can see all of what I'm doing. So you'll want to get this out of the way so that you can see everything that I'm doing. You may want to, if you're not already having it maximized, you can maximize the GoToWebinar and have it as big as possible. Once you slide this off the screen, this button will turn into a button that, instead of pointing to the right, will point to the left, and that's because clicking it again will cause this to slide back onto your screen. Why would you want it to slide back onto your screen? Well, if you're shy and you have a question, you can type it here, and Leanne, our humble and capable and energetic moderator, will recognize that you have a question. She will interrupt me at just the right time, and she will ask your question on your behalf. Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My mother could start a story and 20 minutes later have told you 17 other stories, but not gotten to the end of her first story. I'm kind of like that too. So if I get off track, or if I just plain am not understanding what you're asking, or if you have follow-up questions, just continue to type them here, continue to remember to hit send, and Leanne will continue to interrupt me. Now, if you're not feeling shy, you can always use this button. Somebody does every once in a while. It's the one that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. Again, yours may look a little different because they've made this a little more modern. Someday, make a note, Leanne. Someday I'm just going to have to get to new pictures. But this button here means raise your hand. And instead of, Leanne will see that you've raised your hand. She will interrupt me at just the right time. But instead of reading your question on your behalf, she will simply unmute your microphone and let you ask your own question. Now, but this becomes then a no Doritos, no Fritos zone until you're muted back up. And you will remain live and in a two-way conversation with me until I'm done. So again, feel free to interrupt me if I get off track, if I'm headed in the wrong direction, if I'm not understanding what you're asking, or if you have follow-up questions, we will get them answered. Now, therefore, without any further ado, I'm going to press the magic buttons and get out of here. And Leanne is already getting ready to interrupt me, which is always exciting. Leanne?
Yes, one of our faithful attenders, Bill, is having trouble with his video, and I want to check and make sure everybody else is.
Okay. So if you can see my PracticeMaster screen, let's take it back to where it's a contact list. I want everybody to raise your hand if you can see that. Go ahead. Remember, it's that one button. Raise your hand if you can see it. So most people can. So Bill, you must have something wrong with your connection. I would advise you to simply disconnect and dial back into the, well, obviously you can hear me. So I would say you should disconnect the computer and reconnect. You can stay connected to the audio. Let us know if you continue to have trouble. So why are we talking about PracticeMaster in regards to contact management, and why am I so excited about it? Well, I'm so excited about it because I am one of those people who likes to see the end result, likes to see the end game, the end picture. And in my idea of a perfect world, everything talks to everything else. Everything communicates where necessary. So many times people have built islands in their computer system. So you'll have, and let's just use the Christmas card list or the lists that you use for marketing to illustrate those islands. Let's say you have a 10-attorney firm. You're very likely to have 10 separate contact lists within Outlook that all contain names, some of them the same as in other people's lists, some of them different, some of them with the wrong old address from before, and some of them with the correct address since this person's moved. You also probably have a Christmas card list, a Thanksgiving card list, a holiday open house list, big tins of popcorn during the holidays list, a geranium list for if you do estate planning and you send flowers to funerals, or whatever the case may be, you have lists. And these lists all tend to be separate islands. Other things can be islands too in a computer system. Your accounting software could be one thing that's not tied to your billing software, which is another thing, which is not tied to your practice management, which is another thing. I don't like that. I like a world where everything that should has the ability to and has been configured to talk to each other. So in accounting, if you write a check, it goes into the books, it goes onto the appropriate client's bill. If it's a client recoverable advance, later when the client gives you $1,100, the billing software passes that information back to the accounting software. That's an example of not having the islands in accounting. And the biggest place for islands in a computerized world, which of course we live in, is contacts. Because, as I said, all 10 attorneys or all 20 attorneys or both attorneys, whatever size firm you're in, could have their own contact list in Outlook. You could have that spreadsheet that you use to send out the holiday invites. You could have that spreadsheet you use to send out the Thanksgiving cards. And none of those talk to each other. So what happens from a marketing standpoint in a typical firm is that when it comes time, and usually just before it's time, to get that holiday card out or to get that newsletter about estate planning out that you put out twice a year or whatever it is, there's a mad scramble to all of a sudden pull everything together because who should be added to the list, and what about Bob, the new attorney, and what about this, and how are we going to, this guy died, so he's not estate planning anymore, he's probate. Those are problems. And PracticeMaster gives us a place where we can solve those problems. Where? Why, the contact file, of course. The contact file in PracticeMaster, let's say a system that's been configured to be fully integrated as far as it can go. That contact file can push the appropriate contacts out to each individual's Outlook, so that instead of them having their own little islands in Outlook, they can be getting their contacts from PracticeMaster, and therefore those contacts can be going through to the phone. Those contacts that are in your system in PracticeMaster are the same people that when you open up a client matter, and I've got 2 sample matters in my system, those are the same people that when you open up this matter, for instance, you're going to assign to be tied to that matter. Who's the opposing counsel? Who's the attorney within the firm that's handling this? Who's the judge? Who's the real estate agent if you do real estate work? Who's the court reporter? These are all people that need to be tied to matters. In many instances, these are the same people that you're billing. Not all of them. It would be great if all 10,000 people in your contact system were people that you sent bills to, but that's not true. However, your billing system should be pulling its information from this central contact database, the same one that's feeding the attorney's phones and Outlooks, the same one that's providing those people to be tagged to cases so that they're associated with the cases that they are associated with, and you can go to that matter and see, yes, John Smith is the opposing counsel on this matter. That's the perfect world that I'm talking about that eliminates these islands. So then the next logical step in PracticeMaster with regard to contacts is marketing. It's also, the second next logical step is contact management. Think about it for a second. A contact is a potential client. A contact may be a client. A contact may be somebody that is an attorney in town or a judge in town. Maybe you do or do not market to those people, but you probably don't market to the judges, but you might invite them to your holiday party. So although you don't think of that as marketing, it is in a sense. You interact with these people, and sometimes you're interacting with these people before they're clients. So the contact record is the starting point for absolutely everything relating to any person that comes into contact with your firm, regardless of whether they're on the other side as opposing counsel or an expert witness that's not on your side but on the other side, whether they're a judge, no matter who they are. Everybody should be in this central contact system, and it should feed everything else that has to do with contacts. Now, what that means is that if I go back to this contact screen and I pull up, who do we have here? Paul Purdue. I can keep track of notes about that person. I can go and take Paul Purdue to have lunch and see what I've scheduled for Paul Purdue. And I don't have anything. And I can store documents with Paul Purdue if you're using the document management aspect of PracticeMaster. I can see what clients he's tied to as a client, and I can see what matters he's tied to as anything. I can see what organization he's from, and so in this instance, Paul Purdue works for ABYZ Insurance Company. And I can even see how we're marketing to him. So by pulling up a contact and by having your contacts stored in the central file, not only does that feed everything else that has anything to do with contacts, who you're billing, who's tied to matters, who you're marketing to, everything, you also can centrally manage it right here. Now, these things, the documents, the notes, the calendar, those are how you keep track of what you're doing with contacts if they're not clients. Because as most of you know probably, if we go over to the client screen and pull up the Employer Inc. case, we also have places for notes and emails and calendar items and fees even when you get to be a client. But if you're not a client, but you're a contact and you're somebody that we hope will become a client, we still need places to keep track of those notes. And emails could be in here too. I just don't have that tab opened up. And what time, when you've had lunch with this person or what you've done with them, or even tasks, maybe to follow up with them to see if they are interested in becoming a client after you had lunch last week. So that stuff there is to manage what you're doing with these contacts. This is to see how they may be related to cases already. This is the actual contact information that's going to feed Outlook and all those places. And let me back up for a second, because I said you've got, let's say, go back to my example of 20 attorneys. Let's say in a firm of 20 attorneys that you're going to have 15,000 contacts in your contact system. Those 20 attorneys don't each want 15,000 contacts on their phone or in their Outlook lists. And so that's why we have this phone sync field that allows us to say that Paul Purdue should show up on Mary Jo's phone. I can press that button, really. And what this means then is that the only person whose phone or contact list in Outlook that Paul Purdue is going to show up on is Mary Jo. So Bob, the attorney, can have his 158 contacts on his phone. Sally, the rainmaker, can have her 782 contacts on her phone. But nobody has to have all 15,000 contacts on their phone. That just doesn't make sense. So we're able to send them out to the right phones. We're able to work with them and keep track of notes and documents and emails and tasks and events. We're able to see how they link to cases, and we're able to market to them. Now, I'm going to take a quick tour of this marketing screen, because this is one of those things I could go on for hours and hours and not shut up about. But I want you to see that when you're marketing to people, you need to know who in the firm is responsible. So let's say Mary Jo also happens to be responsible for marketing to Paul Purdue. Now, these two things are not always the same. Mary Jo may want him on her contact list and in her phone, and Mary Jo may want to be the person, one of the people that's responsible for deciding if we continue to market to him. But the two aren't the same. Mary Jo may think I'm a real jerk, but so she doesn't want me on her phone. She doesn't want me in her Outlook system. But she is concerned that I be marketed to because I'm a rich jerk, or I'm an important jerk, or I'm an influential jerk. So Mary Jo may be very concerned about whether we're marketing properly to Paul Purdue, but she may really not want him on her phone. So these two things are not the same. They're totally different. Now, then we get into, and I'm not going to go into this stuff. This is kind of specific to certain instances. I'm going to talk about these two things. Now, this is a sample system for a firm that has an announcement list. A lot of firms do. New lawyers, super lawyers. Where are we going to send those announcements to? Maybe they have a party. Maybe they have a Thanksgiving card. Maybe they have a newsletter. Maybe they like to send birthday cards. These are all what I like to call touches, tangible touches. These things are more esoteric. What is this guy, Paul Purdue, interested in? Maybe he doesn't care at all about agricultural law, but he's very much interested in asbestos defense and perhaps employment law, just because of who he is or what he's interested in, and therefore what the firm is interested in talking to him about. Now, these things are not tangible. We don't send out with regularity stuff about employment law. But by identifying your firm's areas of interest, is what I like to call them, or non-tangibles, then you're able to pinpoint specific areas of interest on a contact-by-contact basis, so that if all of a sudden something happens that's going to change employment law significantly, you can very quickly pull a list of those people and send them a postcard, send them a letter, send them an email. That's what the areas of interest are for. They're not for every 6 months we send out this, or every year we have a holiday party. Those are marketing touches. Those are tangible events. So to further that explanation, these things are the tangibles. What that means is, if we have an announcement, maybe we don't send it out all the time, but when we do, we send it to these people. We want to know how to send it. I'll get to these things in a minute. So let's say Paul Purdue gets the announcement. Of course we want to invite him to the party, and we want to send him a Thanksgiving card. That's how you do it. These are things that happen all the time. Now, there's other aspects of marketing that I didn't incorporate all of them here. We have a client in Cleveland that has season tickets to the Cavs. That's a basketball team, for those of you who don't know, and I'm one of those people that doesn't know. They have a series of season tickets, if you will, a set of tickets to one of the play series in Playhouse Square. And they have a golf membership. So those aren't really tangible, recurring events. They kind of are, but they're what I like to call expirables. If you have season tickets to the Cavs games, and you've got a set of tickets for tonight's game or tomorrow night's game, and nobody in the firm is going, and the tickets haven't been given away, they will expire tomorrow night, and they won't be any good. So we've added marketing information to that particular firm's marketing screen or mailing list screen, whatever you call it, that identifies people who are interested in either of those three things and when the last time is that they were invited to and attended one of those events. So then you can print, again, spur of the moment, instantly, a list of all the people who like to go to Cavs games in order of when they were last asked. So you can find people or when they last went or both, just a matter of how you do it. And that gets to the flexibility. In other words, PracticeMaster gives me the ability to define these fields in the contact file, put them on the screen the way I want to see them, and then build infrastructure around them. That's one of the primary reasons that PracticeMaster is so good at doing this marketing. Now, just a quick explanation of what this means. Paul Purdue may get his announcements, new lawyers, super lawyers, things like that, at his business address. And they may be addressed to Paul and staff. But he may get invited to the party by sending that invite to his home address, and it might go to Paul and Barb Purdue. And the Thanksgiving card may also go to his business, but it may just be addressed to Paul Purdue. And so by defining this infrastructure, back to business. I forgot to hit tab and get over there. Paul Purdue. There we go. By defining this infrastructure, if you will, and these address overrides and these name overrides, I can make sure that the right marketing touch goes to the right person or persons at the right address, even though this is one person. So although we know this contact is Paul Purdue, when we invite them to the holiday open house, it's Paul and Barb. And when we send them the announcements, we send it to Paul and staff. And when we send a Thanksgiving card, we just send it to Paul Purdue. So this gives me the flexibility, again, to build this infrastructure so that the different sorts of scenarios are going to be accommodated, even though we need to maintain this one common record for Paul Purdue. We don't want a record for his home address and another record for his business address. We want him to be treated like the same person. And of course, PracticeMaster has the ability to store those three addresses. And of course, PracticeMaster has the ability to define the default address when we communicate with Paul Purdue from a business or a legal management sort of basis or case management basis. But marketing's different. And so we need the ability to override those things. So I've got the integration. I've got PracticeMaster's contact file being what feeds tabs for billing, what feeds Outlook and phones for individual contact lists. It's what feeds the client screen so that you can take these people and individually tag them to individual matters under different roles. And let me give you an example of that. Let's say that John Smith is an attorney, and we've got one record in the system for John Smith, and we've got one record for his organization, which is Smith, Smith & Jones. And he's tied to that organization, so if it ever moves and we change Smith, Smith & Jones' address, it will change for John plus all the other attorneys in the firm. Very good way of linking those things together. But we've also got a situation where John Smith is tied to, let's say, 30 different matters within the firm. And for 20 of those matters, he's co-counsel. Let's say it's an insurance defense firm, and he is also a insurance defense attorney. So most of the time when he's tied to cases, it's his co-counsel or other attorney, maybe other defense attorney, whether he's representing our client also or whether he is representing a different defendant. That's beside the point. He may also be a mediator, so he may be tied to 2 cases as a mediator. Maybe he is also an expert witness on truck accident litigation, so he may be tied to 8 cases as an expert witness. That one record needs to be tied to a number of different cases, matters, clients, whatever you call them, in a number of different roles. And that's what the people file does. So we've got contacts feeding all these things. Who's tied to cases? Whose phones do they show up on? Who are we billing? Everything's tied together. Who are we marketing to? We've got that integration. We've got this central location to store them. We've got this flexibility so that when you as a law firm administrator or a managing partner or somebody who works within a law firm comes to me and says, we've got something new that we think we should do marketing-wise, and I haven't seen you talk about it, we can still do it because we have the flexibility. And it all ties back to a report. And I'm not going to really go into much detail on this report, but I can run something called our marketing export report. Maybe I can. Maybe we don't have it in here. So let me just describe it. That allows you to say, I want to pull a list of all the people that are going to be sent Thanksgiving cards, and I want it to put the right name in and the right address, and I want it to be in a format that I can either merge with a card, merge with a label, send to a mailing house, and so that's a CSV file. So that report then, and the flexibility that PracticeMaster gives us in writing that report, allows us to pull this information out and instantly create those marketing lists to be merged or to be sent to the mailing house or sent to whoever is going to deliver those large tins of popcorn so that we can use it to drive that. That's all I have to say on the subject. Well, let me qualify that. That's all I'm going to say. As I said, I could go on talking about this for hours. If you'd like to hear me go on talking about this for hours, you just give me a call, and someday we'll get together, and I'll go on and talk about it for hours. Let me point out that if we go to our website, which I'm going to go back to here, and that is attorneycomputersystems.com, emphasis on the S at the end of systems, you will find that we have a video section. And in that video section, we have everything, including the coffee pot webinars that you are currently going to, attending, the eBite video series, which is Mary Jo's quick and short videos on very succinct topics, usually one special thing that you can do that you may not know you can do. The Paul and Mary Jo Show, which is Mary Jo and I each trading off and taking a very much more broad topic and going into much greater detail in it. We have our 3 virtual user group meetings, World Docs, PracticeMaster, and Tabs. And we lump those all together under what we call the water cooler. So if you go to one of these links, you will find, first off, you will find the announcement of the next webinar, which is not here. It's supposed to be April, but it will be very quickly. You will find the recordings of the last however many we've been doing. So in this particular thing, the Coffee Pot webinar series goes back probably 3 years worth of recordings. The bugs we've been recording for, again, about 3 years. The World Docs one is new, so it goes back about a year. But you have this wealth of information out there. If you don't already know about it, these videos are all there for you to look at and to search through. There are literally hundreds of videos. In our new website design, we have a search box. So if I type marketing, I will get direct links, or I can hit the search button and actually get to a page that's going to show me all the webinars and videos that fit, and anything on our site that fits that description of marketing or whatever it is that you're looking for. So please feel free to take advantage of this resource. It's out there 27 hours and 4 days. Let's try that again. 7 hours, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I have people tell me that they've spent 4 hours from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. last night watching these videos. So I won't be talking to you about marketing between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., but you can come here and find that information. Everybody have a good rest of the day, good rest of the month, and we will see you back here next month. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.